Hello everyone, my name is Kenneth Wong. I teach beginning and intermediate Burmese at UC Berkeley. အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါခင်ဗျာကျွန်တော်နာမည် Kenneth ပါ Berkeley တက္ကသိုလ်မှာအခြေခံနဲ့အခြေခံလွန်မြန်မာစာသင်နေပါတယ် Welcome to another episode of Intermediate Burmese. Today's episode is about the different ways to think about things in Burmese. What do I mean by that? Well, in Burmese there are three different verbs. At least three you can use to say to think. Tinde, dwede, senzare. Tinde, dwede, senzare. In English, you use the same verb, think, to say, I think it'll rain tomorrow. I'm thinking about my first love. And what do you think about this book? In Burmese, you'll need to use different verbs for these. In the next 10 minutes or so, I'll teach you when to use which, so stay with me. Let's start with the simplest of them. Suppose you want to say, I think it'll rain tomorrow. It'll rain tomorrow is manepya mo yuame. Manepya mo yuame. Manepya for tomorrow, mo yuame for the verb to rain in future form. In this case, you would use the verb tinde to say I think. So you join them together and you say manepya mo yuame tinde. Manepya mo yuame tinde. Let's try another example. Suppose you have a feeling the government will shut down Bandula Park in the middle of downtown Yangon, Rangoon, temporarily to prevent COVID infection from overcrowding. How would you say that? Now about Bandula Panjang Peng Me is how you say Bandula Park will be closed next week. Now about Bandula Panjang Peng Me. Now about for next week, Bandula Panjang is Bandula Park. Peng Me, the future tense for Pei, to close or to shut. So you follow it up just like you did before with tinde, I think. Now about Bandula Panjang Peng Me tinde. Now about Bandula Panjang Peng Me tinde. I think Bandula Park will be closed next week. In both cases, to be more complete, you can also say Manepya mo yuame lo jano tinde. Now about Bandula Panjang Peng Me lo jano tinde. This is where you use the particle lo, which identifies a clause that comes before as something of a quote or a complete statement, an idea in itself, before adding jano tinde for I think. Specifically adding the pronoun jano, the male first-person pronoun for respectful speech, makes it clear that this is your impression, your opinion. If you're a woman, you should use, of course, jama, the female counterpart for respectful speech. Usually, the people tend to leave it out in real life if it is clear you are the speaker, so it's completely optional. So here's a simple guideline to identify when to use tin. When you are saying this is your impression, this is your opinion, and this is the feeling you get of how things will turn out, the verb tin is perfect for that. Shall we look at a much more complex sentence from a news story about Cardi B getting into hot water for using a Hindu goddess gestures in a promotional campaign? This is the part where she talks about the wrong impression people are getting of what she's trying to do. Ludega jamaga thuroye yinje mune bada yego sogare lu tinnede. Ludega jamaga thuroye yinje mune bada yego sogare lu tinnede. Let's break it down piece by piece. Ludega or ludega is the people. Jamaga is I, first person female, standing in for Cardi B. Turoye is their, possessive. Jinjemu is culture, and Badaye is religion or faith. These two are joined by the particle net, the Burmese version of en. Sogade is to insult, the verb to insult. It ends with lo, the quote identifier, and tennede is thinking or are thinking. So the whole thing means people are thinking I'm insulting their culture and religion. If this breaks down seems too complex, look at it this way. Jamaga turuye yinje mune bada yego sogade. I'm insulting their culture and religion is the nested statement. It's a statement inside the main statement. The beginning part, ludega, or the people, and the ending part, tinnede, our thinking, identifies who's getting that impression, who is doing the thinking. I hope that makes sense. Now let's talk about your first love, or rather, let's think about that person, shall we? First love is a chit u, a chit u. The suffix u means first, top priority, or early. Nui u, for example, is the eve of summer. Mo u is the first shower or early rain, and so on. A chit is the noun form of love, so a chit u is first love. If you want to say, I'm thinking about my first love, you should say, a chit u a jaung senza nere. A chit u a jaung senza nere. A jaung, the particle following the word first love, is about. This is not about offering an opinion or an impression. This is about memories, recollection, a flashback to the good times, or the bad times, as may be the case for some people. For this, the verb senza is appropriate. Tin is not. If you'd like to say, I'm thinking about my childhood, you say, ကျွန်တော်ကလေးဘဝအကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေတယ်။ကျွန်တော်ကလေးဘဝအကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေတယ်။ကျွန်တော် makes it possessive for respectful male, my. If you're a woman, you should say, ကျမကလေးဘဝအကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေတယ်။ကျမ the female possessive counterpart for my. ကလေးဘဝ is childhood. So together, ကျွန်တော် or ကျမကလေးဘဝအကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေတယ်။ I'm thinking about my childhood. If you look up the entry for Sinza in the Burmese language group Nyamaza Apoyest official dictionary, you'll see that Dweto, the double word counterpart for the simpler verb dwe, is also a definition. That means for instances where you can use Sinza, you may also be able to use Dweto or dwe. Let's go back to the previous examples then. To say I'm thinking about my first love, you can say a chit u ajang sinza nere. You can also say a chit u ajang dwe nere or a chit u ajang dwe do nere. To say you're thinking about your childhood, you can say chano kalebawa ajang sinza nere. You can also say chano kalebawa ajang dwe nere or chano kalebawa ajang dwe do nere. Here are two articles about overthinking from Aravadi. Both uses the phrase a dwe lonjin to describe the phenomenon. A dwe lonjin. A dwe is the noun form of the verb dwe, to think, plus the suffix lon for beyond or over or extreme. Jin, the final particle, is the noun-making particle. So a dwe lonjin, the phenomenon of overthinking. Here's a song by Sutetline called Sinza Ome. I'll think about it. The essence of the song is, love is a big deal, romance is a big deal, so I can't just take your words and sweet talks. I want to go slow. I'll have to take my time and think about it. So she says, "Cheng-yuga senza-jin-de-re. Kebi-po." Taking my time, I want to think about it. Let's go slow. Senza-jin-ba-de. I want to think about it. To sum up, if you are talking about weighing the pros and cons of an action, or reflecting on the good times and the bad times, or thinking about a person or an action deeply, you should use the verb senza, dwe, or dwe-do. For example, "Now ne myama pi pyan bo senza nere." Now ne myama pi pyan bo senza nere. I'm thinking about going back to Burma or Myanmar. Coronavirus achang dwe nere. Coronavirus achang dwe do nere. I'm thinking about coronavirus. On the other hand, if you are expressing your thoughts or an impression of something, you should use tinde. For example, "Now ne myama pi pyan nai me tinde." Now ne myama pi pyan nai me tinde. I think I can go back to Burma or Myanmar next year. Now ne thangajin de ne pyan dwe nai me tinde. Now ne thangajin de ne pyan dwe nai me tinde. I think I can see my friends again next year. So, what do you think about this lesson? By the way, if you're asking for somebody's impressions, thoughts, and opinion, the same distinction applies. So you should ask, Below Tenle? Below Tenle? What do you think? On the other hand, if you see somebody getting lost in thought, you can ask, Bari sinza nirale? Bari sinza nirale? What are you thinking about? I've never met most of you, but I shall be thinking about you as this year comes to a close. So, ကျွန်တော် break 30အကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေပါတယ် ကျွန်တော် break 30အကြောင်းစဉ်းစားနေပါတယ် For more Burmese speaking lessons, subscribe to this channel and also check out my book, Easy Burmese from Tuttle Publishing. If you're in Yangon, the book is available at City Books and Music, Safari Bookstore. Well, that's it for now. Have a safe and happy holiday season and New Year. I'll see you on the other side in 2021. See you later. Namatwime. Bye bye.